Thank you. Always a pleasure to talk to you on these issues. Here on NewsX World, of course, we will bring you all the updates on that escalating situation between the United States and Venezuela. Well, that is all that we have time for this hour, but keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world. Thank you. Hello and welcome. I'm Thomas Porteous and you are watching the Africa Brief on NewsX World. Let's take a look at some of the top stories of the hour. The Ivory Coast goes to the polls as President Alassane Ouattara seeks a fourth term, facing four rivals promising jobs and agricultural reform. The 83-year-old leader, who has ruled for nearly 2 decades, is banking on his party's parliamentary majority to extend his hold on power. Madagascar's new military-backed government has revoked ousted President André Rajoelina's Manaski's nationality, citing his French citizenship. The decree, signed by Prime Minister Haranti Salam Rajoni Arvelino, bars Rajoelina's impeached and in exile from contesting from future elections. Niger has reintegrated 91 former Boko Haram members, including 33 children, after completing de-radicalization at the Gudarami rehabilitation camp. The group took an oath to renounce violence under the country's 7th disarmament and reintegration program aimed at restoring stability in the Lake Chad region. Moving on, one person is killed and 10 others injured after Russian missiles and drones hit Kiev overnight, according to the city's military administration. Officials say windows were shattered, cars damaged, and a crater left in the courtyard of a residential building. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has accused the United States of fabricating war after it sent the world's largest warship towards the Caribbean in a major escalation of its military buildup in the region. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier to move to the Mediterranean Sea last night. The US military is flying drones over Gaza to monitor the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, according to the New York Times. The surveillance flights, approved by Israel, aim to give Washington an independent view of developments on the ground through a new joint coordination center. The UN warns that at least 1.5 million people in Gaza need emergency assistance as returning residents find their homes reduced to rubble and basic supplies scarce. Hamas says fractions in Cairo have agreed to form an independent technocrat committee to govern a post-war Gaza. US President Donald Trump says he's open to meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un while in South Korea, adding they get along very well. He also confirms plans to meet Brazil's President Lula da Silva at an ASEAN summit in Malaysia, saying tariff talks could be on the table under the right circumstances. We start in the African continent, of course, where the Ivory Coast is voting in a presidential election today, with incumbent 83-year-old Alassane Ouattara claiming credit for nearly 15 years of economic growth and relative stability, while strongly hinting it will be his final campaign. The election pits Ouattara against 2 former government ministers, as well as the ex-wife of his predecessor, Laurent Gbagbo. Ouattara is the only candidate with the backing of a strong political party, making him the clear favourite. Ouattara came to power after a 4-month civil war that grew on ethnic tensions and was spurred by Gbagbo's refusal to acknowledge defeat in the 2010 election. Meanwhile, the presidential election has deepened divisions between those supporting Ouattara's bid to extend his rule and others calling for new leadership. young Ivorians have voiced their scepticism, stating that the country is tired of seeing old people make decisions for the younger generation. Meanwhile, his supporters say that he has been the best candidate since 2010 and that the country has significantly evolved under him. Now we're joined by Ayanuga Ulukbenga Paul. He's a public affairs analyst and he joins us live from Lagos in Nigeria. Thank you very much for joining us, Ayanuga, here on NewsX World. It is a pleasure to have you. A significant long term, looking for an extension, 14 years in power that has seen economic growth in the Ivory Coast, but not without some scepticism. Would you say that the praise is warranted for Ouattara? Okay, the Ivorians go to the polls today with people from across the country looking to vote in a new leader. 83-year-old incumbent Alassane Ouattara has been in power for nearly 15 years. He is pitted against two former government ministers, as well as the ex-wife of his predecessor. However, Ouattara is the only one who has the backing of a prominent political party. Young Ivorians have expressed scepticism, stating that they're tired of old people leading the Ivory Coast, and they want a younger face to lead the African nation. However, he is the clear favourite to extend his rule for another 4 years. We are hopefully going to be joined by Ayanuga to discuss this very soon. Yes, the Ivory Coast has seen economic growth over the past 14 years since he has been in power. And so we will have to see how the Ivory Coast votes. The presidential election has deepened these divisions for those supporting the bid to extend Ouattara's rule under the leadership of Ouattara. These young Ivorians, of course, wanting new blood at the head of the Ivorian government. Let's move on now. Okay, we are moving on. Madagascar's new government has formally stripped ousted President Andry Rajoelina of his Malagasy nationality 10 days after his removal in a military takeover. The decree, signed by Prime Minister Haile Rajanovelo and published in the official Gazette, has stated that Rajoelina has not lost his nationality after acquiring French citizenship in 2014. Under Malagasy law, any citizen who voluntarily obtains foreign nationality automatically loses their own. The move now bars Rajoelina from contesting in future elections. His French nationality first sparked controversy ahead of the 2023 elections when it was revealed nearly a decade after being granted. Okay, we're now joined by Amina Ateru. She's an African journalist and she joins us live from Lagos. Thank you very much for joining us, Amina. Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you here on the programme. First of all, can you tell us a little bit more about this former president, President Rajoelina, who he was as a leader and how this all came about? why he applied for French citizenship, given he, of course, knew the law and this whole process that has occurred. Can you hear me okay, Amina? Hello, can you hear me okay?
No.
Okay, I believe we're having some technical issues there. Well, please bear with us while we try and get Amina back. Of course, a hugely significant story coming out of the island of Madagascar. A former president stripped of his citizenship by the Prime Minister of Madagascar. 10 days after the takeover. Okay, we're moving. The US has authorized the departure of non-emergency personnel from Mali due to the nation's escalating security and political risks. The US State Department cited heightened dangers from terrorism, armed conflict, crime, and civil unrest for its level 4 do not travel advisory for Mali. In May 2025, Mali's ruling military junta dissolved all political parties and restricted political activities indefinitely. This move came after a national dialogue recommended consolidating military power, prompting pro-democracy protests and a severe crackdown on dissent. Prolonged military transition. The junta, led by General Assimi Goïta, has extended its hold on power. In July of 2025, it enacted a revised charter that grants Goïta a 5-year presidential term, renewable indefinitely. This violates previous promises to return to civilian rule and entrenches military control. The junta has faced internal conflict, including an alleged coup plot in August of 2025. And the infighting has worsened the security situation in the country. Okay, we are once again joined by Amina. Hopefully she can hear us now. Amina is an African journalist and she joins us live from Lagos. Could you tell us a little bit more about the situation in Mali right now, Amina?
Yes, thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
The situation in Mali is truly unfortunate because Mali is supposed to be one of the richest countries, I would say first in Africa and around the world, because of its vast gold land. However, just like you said, due to most of the security challenges that they've been having, especially with the militants taking over the Al-Qaeda-linked terrorist groups and also the Islamic State, taking.
Okay, we have a network issue there, unfortunately, with Amina, which is, of course, unfortunate. Of course, we are covering the situation in Mali right now. Hopefully, we get Amina back because I'm sure she had a lot to say on that. But if not, we are going to move on. Okay, we are moving on now. Okay, we move over to the country of Nigeria, where the military has killed more than 50 Boko Haram terrorists following coordinated drone attacks on military bases in the country's northeast. The attacks, which have occurred early on Thursday, targeted military bases in Borno and Yobe states, launching from northern Cameroon and the village of Kataroko in Yobe. Army spokesperson Sani Uba stated that ground troops, supported by air assaults, successfully repelled the terrorists. The military is continuing its pursuit of more than 70 wounded fighters. This attack comes on the heels of Boko Haram's deadly assault last month in Dar al Jamal, where at least 60 people were killed. Boko Haram has splintered into two factions since the death of its leader Abakuba Shakau in 2021. One faction, being the Islamic State in the West Africa province, has become notorious for attacking military positions. The US recently approved a $346 million arms sale to Nigeria to bolster its security efforts in tackling it. Further news from Nigeria once again, where the President Bola Tinubu has appointed new service chief in a sweeping overhaul of the country's military leadership as part of efforts to strengthen national security. The reshuffle comes amid persistent security challenges across Nigeria, including Islamist insurgencies in the northeast, armed banditry in the northwest, and separatist unrest in the southeast. General Ofemi Odiye was named as the Chief Defence Staff, replacing General Christopher Musa, who was appointed just over 2 years ago after Tinubu came into office. Meanwhile, Major General W. Shebu was appointed as the Army Chief of Army Staff, while the Air Vice Marshal S.K. Aneke and Rear Admiral I. Abbas were named as Chiefs of Air ANF Naval Staff, respectively. Major General E.A.P. Underlay has retained his position as the Chief of Defence Intelligence. Okay, now we move on and over to Southeast Asia for our next story, where Thailand is mourning the death of Her Majesty the Queen Mother Sikarit, the mother of King Maha Vajiralongkorn, at the age of 93. In a statement released by the Royal Household Bureau, officials have confirmed that Queen Mother Sikarit had been hospitalised since September the 7th of 2019 due to several illnesses. She had developed a bloodstream infection before her condition deteriorated. Flags across Thailand were lowered as the nation paid tribute to a beloved royal figure who brought grace, compassion and modern glamour to the monarchy. Born in 1932, Queen Sikarit Kitayakachira became a queen consort in 1950 after marrying King Bhumibol Adulyadej, Thailand's longest reigning monarch. Known worldwide for her elegance and style, Queen Sirikit worked with French designer Pierre Balmain to promote Thai silk, helping to revitalise a national industry and showcase Thai craftsmanship on the global stage. She had also served briefly as regent in 1956 when King Bhumibol entered a Buddhist monastery, a history first for a modern Thai queen. Queen Sikarit had been out of the public eye since suffering a stroke in 2012, and the king has ordered the highest royal funeral honours in accordance with tradition. Her Majesty's remains will be enshrined at the Das Maha Prasat Throne Hall in the Grand Palace, and royals of the royal court and court officials will observe a one-year mourning period. Several Yemenis working for the United Nations in the rebel-held capital of Sana'a will have been detained on accusations of spying for Israel. Earlier this week, 20 UN staff, including 15 foreigners, were released after being held in their compound since a raid last weekend. The rebels have harassed and detained UN staff and aid workers for years, accusing them of spying, but they have accelerated arrests since past the start of the Gaza war. Meanwhile, the internationally recognised Yemeni government in Aden, which opposes the Houthis, condemned the new arrests, labelling them as an escalation. The Houthis are part of Iran's axis of resistance against Israel and the United States and have frequently fired at ships in the Red Sea and Israeli territory during the two-year war, claiming solidarity with the Palestinians. US President Donald Trump has indicated that he would reconsider reducing tariffs on Brazilian exports under the right circumstances. Speaking to journalists aboard Air Force One, Trump also confirmed that he expected to meet with Brazilian President Lula da Silva during his 5-day trip to Asia, which includes stops in Malaysia, Japan and South Korea. Lula is attending the ASEAN summit in Malaysia this weekend, and Trump said a meeting between the two leaders was likely. The two presidents have expressed a willingness to discuss a range of issues, including trade tariffs and tensions with Venezuela. The potential tariff reduction is part of an effort to repair US-Brazil relations, which have been strained in recent years. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer hosts a meeting of the coalition of the willing in London, with French President Emmanuel Macron joining via video link. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky thanks Western allies for new sanctions aimed at crippling Russia's war economy. He urges partners to boost Kiev's long-range missile capabilities. Zelensky also says diplomacy matters only if it leads to real decisions. He also adds the more losses Putin suffers at home, the faster he will consider meaningful talks. Let's in fact listen to what the Ukrainian president had to say.
Diplomacy matters only when it can lead to real decisions. And when it comes to Russia, that dish has many ingredients. The essential ones are real forms of pressure on Russia, sanctions, our long-range capabilities, political pressure, accountability for war crimes, and real actions regarding Russian assets. Today, besides, we are carrying out our own campaign of pressure with drones and missiles, specifically targeting the Russian oil sector. So the long-range capability directly strengthens diplomacy, the more losses Putin suffers on his own territory. The fewer assaults he can carry out on the front line, and the faster he will agree to meaningful diplomacy. That is why we are working to secure Tomahawk cruise missiles, additional Storm Shadow missiles, other capabilities. Thank you very much, Keir.
Meanwhile, the French President Emmanuel Macron announces that France will deliver additional Aster anti-aircraft missiles to Ukraine in the coming days. This comes as Western allies ramp up support for Kyiv amid Russia's ongoing offensive. The meeting comes as the war enters its fourth winter, with the US and EU pressing Moscow harder than ever. And that's all on the Africa Brief. Keep